Hello everyone, Namaste. I hope you all are doing good and your studies are going on perfectly well. So today is 26th of December and here are the articles for you. In the first article, we will cover a very important national news as our Prime Minister has recently launched the India's first ever river interlinking project from Khajuraho. In the second one, we will assess the tsunami disaster preparedness of India as on this very day of 26th of December, 20 years back, tsunami waves hit and destroyed the shores of India. Then we will further simplify 5 other articles, enriching them with prelims boosters, and of course not to forget to make the best out of this discussion. Do not forget to download the handout PDF in the comment box and also try to solve the quiz for actively recalling the important points that we shall be covering today. So let's get started. So beginning with our first topic, we are going to talk about India's first river linking project, and this of course all of us knows this is about the Ken-Betwa interlinking project. You will be fascinated to know that we have been knowing that this interlinking river project is going to happen, but it is only yesterday that our Prime Minister has officially announced or inaugurated this particular project, that too in the city of temples, that is Khajuraho. So what is the context? We've understood that a foundation stone has been laid down for the interlinking project. So foundation stone where? Of which area or for which structure? This is for the Dhodhan or the Dhodhan Dam, which will be set up in Chhatarpur, in between Chhatarpur and Panna. So it is in Chhatarpur only where Khajuraho temples are located. So basically they have done the Shilanyas process in the Khajuraho. So as you can see that this corresponds to a lot of part of the syllabus, forming one of the very important topic in the upcoming mains. It's talking about the interlinking of rivers. So the geography of both the rivers are important from prelims perspective, mains perspective. Then this is also corresponding to issues related to development, because we will also be analyzing the challenges. First of all, what is the need of such interlinking of rivers? And second, what are the challenges, the societal challenges, environmental, economic challenges? So anything which corresponds to developmental issues. Then we will talk about its environmental implication that will correspond to GS paper 3. So this is one question which could be asked in either of the 3 papers. So be prepared with that. Now, as you can see that this analyst is also unique in the sense that you will get to see more of me from now on, not because I'm going to increase the frequency, but because I'm standing on a stool. Anyway, talking about the context. So first of all, the context over here is the establishment of a link between 2 rivers. One river which is water surplus, which leads to flooding of the region, and the second one which is a very nearby river. In fact, both of them are the tributaries of the same major river, that is the Yamuna river. So one tributary over here is water deficit. The second tributary is water surplus. Water surplus is also bad because this leads to flood. Water deficit leads to drought, and this is where the water insecurity also takes place, especially when the composite water management index is already highlighted that Bundelkhand has got more than 200 blocks as water deficit. So in order to ensure or to establish the water equity in the Bundelkhand region, what we are going to do? We are going to provide the water from water surplus region towards water deficit region. The water surplus river, students, is going to be the Ken river. The water deficit one is the Betwa river. So the linking will take place in such a manner that we are going to link the Ken river with the Betwa river. Okay, this will be done by containing the excess water of Ken river. How will you do that? By building the dam. So where exactly this dam location would be? Somewhere near the Ken river only, and Ken river, as you can see, is somewhere here. It is in the border of Chhatarpur. This is Chhatarpur district, and Panna. Panna is famous for diamond mines. Chhatarpur is famous for Khajuraho temples. Khajuraho temples, which were 21st century temples, also a UNESCO site, got this UNESCO status in the year 1986. It was built by which dynasty? The Chandel dynasty. Okay, so in between this is a Panna National Park, a very important tiger reserve as well. Now here is where, because the Ken river is passing through it, a dam will be established which will be named as the Dhodhan Dam. So this question could be asked that on which river Dhodhan Dam is created. It is not the Betwa river but the Ken river. Why? Because we are trying to contain the water surplus river. Okay. So then a set of canals will be built links will be built and it will eventually feed the water to this Betwa River which also forms a border between Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. We are essentially trying to target a physiographic region, which is the Bundelkhand region. So if you can see, Bundelkhand region is a physiographic plateau which shares itself between two states, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. So definitely when we are establishing this linkage, we are going to benefit not just the districts of Madhya Pradesh but also various districts of Uttar Pradesh. Okay, here is the Ken-Betwa link. As you can see, you can find a detailed map in your handout. And obviously it is going to benefit all these districts which are pointed out. Okay, and you should henceforth also know that Ken and Betwa both are the tributaries of Yamuna. Do not confuse it with Son River. Son River flows somewhere from here and it is a tributary of Ganga which originates from MP itself. Okay, now having read all of it, now let's understand the origin or the history of this idea of interlinking of Ken and Betwa, which is also India's first river interlinking project. It is the first but not the first to be idealized or conceptualized. So it was in the year 1980, particularly in 1980, when Indian government created the National River Linking Projects in order to establish water security around the country. Of course, this was a very debated project, but at the same time, what they did, they created certain committee which has to analyze the viability or picking some of the rivers which needs interlinking. So that committee identified oddly 30 rivers. 30 rivers, 16 from the peninsular India, 14 from the Himalayan region. What would you consider Yamuna? This is a Himalayan river, and henceforth the Ken-Betwa is a part of Himalayan identified rivers only, right? Now, these rivers, which I will also be showing you in this map, as you can see, here are some of the samples. Here are some of the samples which are ideated. Most of them are in the Deccan Peninsula. Then some of them are in Himalayan region. One of them is also in the northeastern state. So as you can see that some of the interlinking project, the 12 number, 14 number, 2, 3, 4, 5, they will also be having some repercussion of our relations, international relations with the bordering countries. Okay, that's going to be one of the challenges. But bringing you back to the topic, so we were talking about how the origin happened. So origin happened by conceptualizing 30 such rivers, among which Ken and Betwa won the race, and finally in 2021 Union Cabinet gave it the approval by establishing a memorandum of agreement between the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Previously, it was the Ministry of Irrigation and your UP government and MP government, and this is finally how it was conceptualized. The MOU was signed, and finally the foundation was laid yesterday. This entire project will be completed in 2 phases. In the first phase, there will be a creation of upper dam, in the second, a lower dam. The upper dam is the Dhodhan Dam, and the lower dam would be the Ur Dam. Okay. Now, it will also include constructing canals and tunnels, and of course a high dam, which will be at the Ken River, very important, at Dhodhan. And where is Dhodhan exactly? It is in Chhatarpur district. But if you talk about in which biodiversity park is it located into, it is located in the Panda Biosphere Reserve or in the Panda National Park. Of course, this is also debatable, has got environmental concerns, because how can you create something so distorting in a national park where even the basic of anthropogenic activities are not allowed, for example, settlements. Okay. Next, how much time will it take to be for this project to be completed? Roughly 8 years. This is not very important. We have understood what has been the history of this project, and now we will talk about the implications related to this project. This is a huge project having both positive and negative implications. So first of all, we will talk about some negative implications which will broadly be surrounding around the environmental implication, most importantly, then the social implications. Of course, there will be political implication henceforth, and there will be cultural implications also, but that is not something which is major. The major implications would be these two. Okay. What are the environmental implications? So you have already heard about the Narmada Bachao Andolan originating from the same state of MP. This was against the development of Sardar Sarovar Dam and the related rehabilitation or lack of rehabilitation and large-scale displacement of the people and their livelihood around the Narmada River just because they wanted to construct that dam. That was one very big environmental initiative taken by Medha Patkar, right? Similarly, here also there will be a lot of displacement, which will be social implication, alongside a lot of deforestation threat for the wildlife will happen. I will now specifically point out how it will happen. So of course, it is going to be built at the center of Panna National Park. Panna National Park encompasses of many species, and it is said that about 2 to 4 million of trees will be fallen down in order to create this project. And not only that, about 4,000 hectares of the land will get submerged because of the resultant swamping of this dam. Next is the threat to wildlife. Now, Panna Tiger Reserve itself was not having a lot of tigers as it was having right now. So back in the year 2007, there was a tiger reintroduction project that happened over there. And finally, we got to stabilize the population of tiger there. But now if we are creating such a gigantic project, again, the tiger population will be endangered, right? Specifically in the Panna National Park, this will threaten the biodiversity, because please remember, tigers are the keystone. They are the umbrella species of any region. If they get affected, the other biosystem also get affected. Not only that, it also affects wildlife in the sense that, Ken River, which is a very, it is highly flooding river, and also pure water river, which means that it contains a certain fishes. It contains of certain fishes, and of course there is a Ghadial sanctuary also there. So both of them will also be affected. In fact, it is said that some of the very pious fishes which are having medicinal properties, they are only located in Ken, and they are not located in Betwa. But when you will try to bring an interlinking project in between them, most probably the biodiversity or the population of this fish species will also get affected, alongside impacting the population of Ghadial, which are critically endangered in nature, and a Ghadial sanctuary is found only in the Ken. Okay, next is the hydrological concerns. So hydrological concerns would definitely involve flooding. In some places still there will be droughts, and according to Niti Aayog report and IIT Bombay report, they say, and they stipulate, that because of such damming of rivers, what we try to change is the natural hydrological cycle, which means the overall rainfall in this region of Bundelkhand, which by the way is already hydrologically deficit. It doesn't get a lot of rainfall, very dry region. Therefore, a lot of lack of development, lack of agriculture can be seen there. In this region, further 12% decrease of rainfall can be seen because of the development of this project. So therefore, there are vehementions regarding hydrological concerns as well. And of course, when the submergence of the land or the diversion of the land will take place, it will also hamper the livelihood, leading to displacement averaging of about 2 to 4 lakh people living in the Chhatarpur and the Panna region. Not only that, there could be protest because of the inadequate compensation, and we also therefore have to carefully ensure that this doesn't become the new Narmada Bachao Andolan or doesn't become a new Panna Bachao Andolan, right? Because we have to ensure that compensation is taken the most care of when it comes to creating such projects. Now, if you are seeing the cost-benefit analysis, you are seeing a lot of implications. Then how is Supreme Court allowing this? Supreme Court, by the way, in 2012 judgment has already said that the interlinking of project is absolutely viable because it helps to restore the water security of our country. So Supreme Court has given a nod, but Supreme Court in the case of Ken-Betwa project are still skeptical, because according to the Central Empowered Committee of Supreme Court, they have questioned the wildlife clearances. They don't know who exactly has provided, whether it is valid or not, and what is the economic viability of this project. This project, which is already very cost incentive, it is going to take a lot of amount, 45,000 crore rupees from the government, could also be having repercussions worthy of some thousands of crore. So what is going to be the cost benefit, what is going to be economic viability is still not properly assessed. That we need to take care of. Second, violation of precedent. So nowhere ever we have seen that in a national park, such a large scale of construction or large scale anthropogenic activities taking place. It is only beating down the previous precedences where we were trying to put our environmental conservation above our developmental goals, right? But in this case, it has been an exception. As you can see, a biosphere reserve zonation includes a buffer zone, core area and a transition area. In the core area specifically, not even human settlements are allowed. And in this case, we are actually building in the core tiger habitat, core tiger reserve. We are trying to build a dam. So this is going to be a problem eventually. Now, you may ask that, ma'am, if it is really problematic, why at all do we need to create the river interlinkage projects? First of all, it provides equity. Equity in terms of three things. Water is required for three things. Specifically, acronym could be the DIP. One is for drinking purposes, and industrial purposes and domestic usages. Second is for the irrigation purposes, which feeds the agriculture of our country, and then for the production of power. So most of the thermal power plants and the hydrological, your hydrological dams all will be requiring rivers, right? So therefore, it is required for sustaining all of these things, and when these things are available in equitable fashion across the length and border of a state or a country, it leads to water security in the region. It leads to sustainable human development. Okay, so it leads to equitable irrigation, specifically in the drought-ridden Bundelkhand region. It will lead to hydropower generation. Hydropower generation will create power in this region, which is also power deficit, and of course, therefore, it will attract a lot of countries. So therefore, the service sector can therefore also grow in this area. Okay, this will also ensure water security for everybody, water availability for everybody, right? And it will also provide ways for the cheapest form of transport, which is through the waterways, because of course there's overburdening on the roadways and the railways, and now we would like to have some other modes which are more cheaper, of course, which will be done by creating such inlets, waterlets, with the help of these linkage projects. This will help us to also tackle the droughts and the flood. So if you see the cost benefit analysis, in the shorter run it might be coming out as a sum negative, but in the longer run you will see that it will have good socio-economic benefits for the overall development of the society, specifically for the Bundelkhand region, which is one of the most backward areas in the country because of its geographical limitations. Geographical limitations include the region which is very barren. So there is no biodiversity, almost nil biodiversity. It is hilly terrain. It has got sparse vegetation. It has got trapped by climate crisis since 2007, where the total hydrological data suggests that the rainfall dropped to about 57% in this region. So further affecting the development, leading to outward migration from this region. And therefore, it will be better in longer run for reviving the Bundelkhand region specifically. Okay, now to apply your knowledge to the best of your capacity, I would recommend you to solve this question and let me know the answer in the comment section. Can we move to the next one? Yes. Now in the second topic, we will be reading about the tsunami preparedness of India. We all know the debate between whether human is more strong or the nature is. But you know, these disasters, specifically the tsunami disaster, is an explicit harsh reminder of how overpowering the nature is over our human fragile systems. And one such example was served on the very same date, 26th of December, 20 years ago, 2004. In that year, the world has witnessed for the first time the most deadliest tsunami ever, killing more than 2 lakh people in just one shot. And we are going to, in the remembrance of the same, we are going to analyze our disaster preparedness for the same deadly disaster, tsunami. In this article, you can see your entire newspapers, the Hindu and Indian Express, covered innumerously by a lot of articles covering tsunami preparedness only. So we will be talking through and through, covering broadly most of the articles given. Okay, this deals with 2 parts of the syllabus. Here are the names. And so the first thing that we are going to read here is, what is this geophysical phenomena of tsunami? Tsunami, as we already know, that this is caused by the sea waves, but these sea waves are not driven by the gravitational pull, unlike tides, or by the winds, unlike the surge storms, but it is pulled by the seismic disruption happening beneath their seafloor levels. And therefore, it is defined by a series of waves of extremely strong wavelength. These 2 characteristics are very important. It's not just one strong surge, but a series of wavelength. It is a series of wavelength, as you can see, with a very, very long wavelength. This long wavelength cannot be observed in the shore as such, but these long wavelengths are produced whenever there is a disruption, a seismic disruption, because of the plate tectonic activity in the sea level. And this kinds of shakes up the entire sea floor, and therefore this leads to creation of very long wavelength kind of tides, which has to establish an equilibrium with its height. So there is something which is known as the length is to height ratio. The length is to height ratio of the tsunami waves, originated tsunami waves, are very negligible. They are very minimal. But in order to conserve the energy as they try to hit the shore, since this length decays down, the height goes up enormously, and therefore this leads to heavy destruction in the shore areas. This is exactly what the definition of tsunami is. It can be defined with the speed. Speed is determined by the height to length ratio. I have already told you this. And it is very unpredictable because when you will see from the shore, the sea will remain very, very calm because of the high wavelength, and suddenly it will rise to the great speed as it hits the shore. This is known as, my dear friend, the shoaling effect, first observed in Japan. Next, frequency of tsunami is highest in which ocean? Of course, in the Pacific Ocean, which is surrounded by the most seismically active zones, which is the Ring of Fire. So it makes sense. Of course, when I'm saying that it is the most deadliest of the coastal phenomena, the reason for this is the speed. You can observe it from the differentiation. Compare it with a wind-generated wave. A tsunami wave has got about 800 times speed more as compared to a wind-generated wave, which itself could be devastating. Then the wavelength is pretty less. The wave period, as you can see, is 10 minutes to 2 hours apart. So how frequently these waves could be coming in? Every 10 minutes, so one doesn't get time to prepare themselves. So therefore becomes one of the most deadliest disaster. The tsunami that is hit in 2004 has not been the only tsunami. We have observed and witnessed in our human history about 58 recorded events of tsunami, which have led to 2,30,000 something deaths overall, which is again very unfortunate. But the 2004 tsunami particularly has been the most deadliest one, leading to 2,20,000 deaths in this overall tally. So it has led to destruction in more than 10 countries of the Southeast Asian belt. It originated from Indonesia. The epicenter was in Indonesia, and then it started affecting everywhere, specifically in the shores of India as well, in the eastern shore of India. Now, as you can see, some of the major tsunamis, here is the name. You will find most of them in the Pacific Ocean. It's not here in the diagram, but because those were not destructive, because the Pacific Ocean mostly is not accommodated by a lot of people. A hazard is the one which nature gives us. But if it is hurting us, the humans or the lives or the livelihoods, then it turns out to be a disaster. So because a lot of destruction happened in the case of 2004, it is known as the worst disaster caused by tsunami hazard. Okay, I hope that clarity is there with you. Other than that, you will see in Pacific Ocean a lot of disasters have happened, specifically affecting Haiti, specifically affecting Chile and Japan. And these will also offer us a case study as to how to enhance our disaster preparedness, what we can learn from these three countries. Research papers have found that there has been a direct correlation between a country's disaster framework and its response or reduction of the risk of disaster, which can be seen by contrasting these three countries. One is the Haiti, which performed worst, Chile, which performed fine, and Japan, which fared the best. Why? Because Chile was having macro and micro level plans. It was having national disaster plan and a basic disaster plan, which was at the district level. So it had disaster management plans at national level and at the state level and at the district level. Japan had further micro planning of the disaster. It developed tsunami codes. Tsunami itself is a word that comes from the Japanese word, and it has assured insurance, mandatory insurance, disaster insurance for everybody living in the area. And therefore, when we talk about the recovery, it was seen the best in the case of Japan, affected by the same disaster of tsunami. Japan suffered the least deaths, then Chile, who recovered very quickly, and then Haiti, which has been recovering very badly because of no disaster plan, no proper disaster plan. And this therefore served a very good example for India. Therefore, the year of 2004 was a breakthrough in our disaster management framework, because in the very next year, 2005, we were very proactive in creating what we know as the only legal framework available for Disaster Management Act of 2005. So I hope things will start making sense to you. Now, talking about the case study of Nagapattinam, which is also covered in a case study. Why are we reading this? I'll tell you. Because of this very disaster preparedness that was there at the district level of Nagapattinam, although this particular district, which was the worst hit, as you can see, these are the coastal states which were hit by tsunamis, and the red ones were affected the worst. This right here, my dear friends, is Nagapattinam. It was affected so bad that a lot of deaths could have happened, but that was avoided. Not only avoided, a lot of recovery took place very quickly, and all of this because of a robust district level disaster management plan. Even if back then the disaster management was not there at the national level, this district was very proactively having it, and therefore the recovery happened very quickly in Nagapattinam. This was also because they created a lot of shelter homes, and they did a lot of focus on the post-recovery. The community participation was very strong. So everything that you need right to be done for community preparedness for the disasters, it was present there in Nagapattinam, which offers us a very good case study. You can use it in your geography answers. The stat and data is already present in your handout. However, there are certain lapses which are still observed, and it has seen that tsunami, which is worst of the disasters, also exposes certain vulnerabilities and inequalities of the Indian society. First of all, we'll understand the disaster cycle. The disaster cycle can be broadly divided. So I will take this page. So disaster cycle can be broadly divided into two categories. So this is where the disaster has happened. So this is where the disaster has happened. Right after the disaster, post-disaster, what will you do? So the post-disaster measures would be, first of all, that there will be a response. How robust is this depends upon the preparedness of the state. Second is, there will be recovery. Recovery is needed to revive the livelihood. The society is back on track after this disaster. And then comes the second step, which is the rehabilitation. Rehabilitation should be followed up by mitigation measures, so that we ensure that similar destruction doesn't happen in future. We have to learn from this disaster and then create mitigatory plan, and then we have to create measures which can prevent the disaster. So we have broadly got this disaster cycle divided into two formats. One is the post-disaster measures, and here in the blue one you can see the pre-disaster measures. Fine. In this disaster cycle, I observe that there are certain groups of the Indian society, the gender-based groups or the economically disadvantaged group, or the tribal group specifically, who were suffering the most in all these segments, which reveals our social inequality and how even the disaster management, even the rescue of these people becomes very difficult. Their recovery of their economic cycle becomes very difficult. So this is something which is highlighted by a lot of articles today. So first of all, it talks about how many casualty happened. Specifically, we take the example of 2004 tsunami. It was estimated by the reports that more than 50% of the casualties were coming from the strata of population which were socially and economically backward. Second, it led to huge coastal destruction, specifically of their livelihoods, and therefore they had to get rid of the mechanized and the more productive kinds of fisheries, had to go to their traditional methods, which again hampered their profits out of fishing, therefore degraded their economic lives. So economic losses happened. Diseases can also spread because of water that has got contaminated. If left contaminated over a long time without drainage, could lead to infestation like malaria and the other bacteria, and of course the deceased body, if they are not settled down in the right time, then of course they will also be creating some other communicable diseases. So disease spread, and then it also leads to environmental damage. This is specifically bad and worst for the tribal population who are dependent on the environment based livelihood only. And then the psychological effect, it has been observed that in many places, specifically Indonesia, people were suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this specifically happened after the 2004 tsunami. So of course, this one tsunami has got a lot of repercussions. Alongside, India has got certain more exacerbated repercussions because of the social inequalities. For example, disproportionate impact was seen on the marginalized group, marginalized on the basis of their gender, for example, the women, for example, children, for example, people who were suffering from some disease, people who were handicapped, the tribal population, the fisheries, low on economic scale. So these people had disproportionate impact and also got disproportionate recovery. Gender-specific issues arise, and there were social structures that were revealed that were very, very extortionist. So then what are the lessons which we can learn from the tsunamis? So there are certain ways to reduce the risk of this disaster. One would be to create sea walls. Now, of course, creating artificial sea wall is first of all very resource intensive, cost intensive, at the same time not very beneficial, not very reliable. But if you create riparian buffers, for example, mangrove, which we are continuously decaying and destructing. Why? Because of our own developmental ambitions. That is a result why the natural sea walls, the natural sea barriers are getting removed. And this is exposing us more to these tsunami-like waves. And therefore, environment protection should be the priority. Second is taking care of the economic impact, which can be ensured by ensuring the due recovery, economic recovery, livelihood recovery, especially of the marginalized group we were reading about in the previous slide. Then privatization and social change has also been seen. It has been seen that a lot of things can only come not just by rescuing an individual or rescuing a state, but by rescuing the entire community. So community preparedness is important. Privatization of the resources is also important. Alongside the government resources, this can be explicitly seen in the case of Japan. Japan has been doing all of it really well and therefore faring well despite living at the beset of nature, because it can get affected by cyclones and tsunamis at any time. And what is the path forward? Path forward, first of all, is to reduce the social economic inequality as much as we can. So this is by empowering the vulnerable community. On priority, we have to ensure their insurance. Next is leveraging technology, for example, AI. We already have a lot of technology-based data. We have installed satellites for prediction. We have got early warning system, but they are not embedded with AI. This disaster risk assessment would involve us to collect a lot of data which could be best assessed by the artificial intelligence tools. So we can put that in use. Then we have to address the social inequality. We also have to ensure environmental conservation. So all in all the topics, all the articles are talking about the same thing, converging on the same thing, that you have to ensure these things. Now, of course, what India has been doing, we have deployed for collecting the data, we have deployed satellites. Specifically, after 2005, we've become very active. We have installed early warning system in the name of INCOIS, which is situated in Hyderabad, and INCOIS was established under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. So this INCOIS center is responsible for analyzing and collecting the data. It collects the data from many sources, one which is in space in the name of INSAT satellites, okay, which communicates to the Tsunami Warning Center, which helps us to model whether this exactly is a tsunami wave or it is just a storm surge. It also helps us to analyze the historic data, the bathymetry, which is a study of the seafloor, coastal topography, coastal vulnerability, all at the same time. And then there is a network. There is a network which comprises of different sensors deployed at different parts of the coastal area, communicating to each other so that we get a holistic data and assess and predict whether the tsunami is coming or not, because prediction is more important than even prevention, because right prediction is the most important step in the entire disaster cycle, which is very underrated one. Now students, for the sake of examination, you should also know the national and the international global measures which have been taken after 2004. So there are global measures. One is the DART. These are the DART cycle, which stands for Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunamis. Okay, so herein we have a lot of tsunamometer. Okay, and the tsunamometer will give their acoustic, with the help of acoustic sensor, give their information regarding any seismic disbalance that could happen in the seafloor to this buoyant boat, and then this will communicate with the satellite, and the satellite will help to disseminate this data, this far off data, to all the parts of the world. Okay, so this can be done with the help of DART. Then at the UNESCO level, it has created International Oceanographic Commission to create tsunami specific codes for all the country and ensure that in the 10-year span of time they are implementing it. Next is tsunami management under the YOGO framework. You could be asked, what is YOGO framework? What is Sendai framework related? YOGO framework particularly is related to understanding tsunami better and how to develop measures which can prevent its destruction. And Sendai framework is related to, it's a 15-year long disaster reduction plan. Again, it encapsulates tsunami program as well. And of course, at the national level, first of all, we have got the National Disaster Management Authority, which incorporates the disaster management plan, and it ensures that it has been created at district level as well. And then we have got the Early Warning System for Tsunami, Early Warning Center, which is INCOIS, established in 2007 in Hyderabad. And then we have an initiative which is Tsunami Ready, creating Tsunami Ready districts and states. This has been taken up by UNESCO's International Oceanographic Commission along with Indian government. And finally, do you know which state has finally been stated as disaster free or tsunami ready? That is Odisha. The first district to become tsunami ready was the Ganjam district of Odisha. Fine. Now here is a question which you can put up for your practice. I will now take your attention forward to the third topic, which is center yet to formally scrap the FMR with Myanmar. So FMR is nothing but a free movement regime. So has center already announced to scrap the FMR, and if yes, then why exactly it has not been scrapped yet? We'll understand the context given in this news article. So FMR, which is a free movement regime, is available between these two countries, India and Myanmar. Herein, across some particular established radius around the India-Myanmar border, one can travel freely, can trade freely just by getting the basic border passes from the Assam Rifles. Assam Rifles are basically the border security is responsible for ensuring the safety of northeastern boundaries. Okay, now here you will see that this FMR is not new. It got established as a bilateral treaty between both India and Myanmar in 1968. Okay, and most of the basic reason behind this was the ethnic similarity and the familiar similarity between people living in both parts of the country. Okay, so here the territorial limit initially was 40 kilometers. That is, up to the radius of 40 kilometers, one can have free movement. It was further reduced to 16 kilometers in the year 2004. And this is going on till now as well. But now it is having more further regulations. Now what happened in this year, on February 8th, accounting for reasons like internal security, threat to internal security to country, and maintaining the demographic structure of India, specifically from the excessive migration coming from Myanmar, our Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah announced that we will be scrapping the FMR completely. But we have seen that it is still not officially scrapped, as movement can still be seen. Okay, so there is now a fresh protocol to regulate the movement by reducing this 16 kilometer limit to only 10 kilometer limit. Now only up to 10 kilometer they can freely move. Okay, so it is not completely scrapped. So the statement comes, you will be flouting it. There are certain states, of course, which are supporting it, some are not supporting it. For that, you must know that India-Myanmar border is up to 1600 kilometers, which is the longest border shared by India with any neighboring country. Try to answer that in the comment section. I want to know that. And what is the ranking of Myanmar in that border length? Okay. So India-Myanmar shares border with a lot of states. It is Manipur, there's Nagaland, Mizoram, and Arunachal Pradesh. The two states, Nagaland and Mizoram, are actually opposing the centre's move to remove the FMR, to scrap the free movement regime, whereas it was Manipur which actually suggested the centre to scrap the FRM so that the violences of Manipur could be curtailed, especially the communal and the ethnic violences. So what are the reasons behind scrapping the FMR, or even the idea of scrapping the FMR? First of all is the growing illegal migration, which is leading to a lot of resource tension, resource crunch in the area, ethnic conflicts, etc., leading to ethnic insurgency, entry of soldiers from the Myanmar, which is leading to militarization and radicalization of the people there, and surge of the narcotics and the drugs. Why? Because here is where you will see the golden triangle, the opium drug center of the world. There is opium triangle, and there is an golden crescent to the west of India, and therefore a lot of narcotic production was also seen coming from Myanmar towards India. These threats led to our central minister say that we should be scrapping the FMR. We have already talked about what area, free movement regime. Previously it was 16, now it is only allowed up to 10 kilometers around the border, and it was normalized in 2018 as a part of India's Act East policy. It was a bilateral agreement between both the country, and what was the rationale? The strong ethnic ties and the local trade and business. Okay, so now we will move to the next topic, very important topic from economy point of view. This is about the effective exchange rate and how, despite our rupee, which is declining against the dollar, our REER is actually holding a very strong stand against the rest of the currencies. So here, as rupee hits new low, the real effective exchange rate soars to an all-time high. Okay, now here we will understand two things, which is very important from prelims point of view. PYQ has been asked on this. This is what is effective exchange rate, what is the difference between effective real exchange rate and nominal effective exchange rate. Okay, so first of all, let's understand the basic. How many rupee can actually buy $1 is our exchange rate with only dollar. But that is not the all-in-all currency. That is not the only country with which we trade, right? There are so many other countries. So what we will do, we will take a basket of currencies, specifically those countries through which we are trading up to 88% of our total trade volume. So we will collect the currencies of all these countries, and then we will see how much of this currency can be brought via 1 rupees. And this we calculate with the help of effective exchange rate. Of course, each of these currencies, for example, $1 could be equal to 81 rupees. Okay, 1 yuan could be equal to 11 rupees. 1 euro can be equal to, let's say, 92 rupees. Okay, so these are different exchange rates. So what I will do, I will take a summation of them, I will take a mean average of them, and then I will calculate the effective exchange rate of India, which let's say could come out to be 100 rupees for this entire basket, for purchasing 1 unit of this basket. Are you getting this concept? This is effective exchange rate. Of course, these currencies themselves contain some amount of inflation coming from their economy. So when I'm calculating this exchange rate, this simple exchange rate is nothing but a nominal exchange rate. Why? Because it is containing the element of inflation. Second, it is not containing another element, which is the importance, the weightage of currency depending upon our trade acumen with them or our trade relation with them. Let's say I'm having more trade with China. I'm having 100 unit of trade with China. I'm having only 2 unit of trade with dollar. I am having just 1 unit of trade with euro. So in this case, I have to assign weights also. So once I'm assigning these due weights to all these currencies, then accumulating it, removing the or actually creating the mean of it, and then creating the average of it, and then I will remove the inflation part of all these economies, and then I will get the real exchange rate. And therefore, increasing REER indicates that the country is losing its competitive edge. It is not a good thing. See, it's a similar thing. If 81 rupees is needed to purchase $1, or if 50 rupees is needed to purchase $1, in which of the following case our country's economy is more strong, our currency is more strong? Of course, in this particular case, it is more strong. Similarly, in the exchange rate, if the exchange rate is going up, which means we need to give more rupees to purchase something, which means the currency is further degrading down. This will hurt our export, but this will benefit our imports. So currently, what is this rate? It has gone up to a record time high of 108 rupees, strengthening by 4.5%. This is not the first time happening in this year. 100 plus 100 has already been crossed in the month of January. And then you can obviously see what exactly is this effective exchange rate. This is a weighted average of rupees exchange rate against a basket of how many currencies? 40 currencies of 40 countries, and 88%, which consists of 88% of India's annual export and import, which is also inflation adjusted. That is what we stand for, and that is what we call the REER. REER and NEER and its difference has been asked about 5 times in the last UPSC prelims examination, so you should be aware of it. Now the base year is 2015-16, very important, unlike CPI WPI 2012 base year, so please be aware of that as well. And now I will move to a very important government scheme in news, because recently Prime Minister has distributed 58 lakh property cards to provide the record of right, the legit digitized record of right, universally applicable, specifically for the rural people of India. And this is under the SVAMITVA mission or the SVAMITVA scheme. So here, first of all, we will decode the news that recently the digitized property records, which are known as the SVAMITVA cards, have been distributed for up to 58 lakh property owners, which expanded from 50,000 villages across 12 states, which means, is the SVAMITVA scheme implemented across all the states of India? No, only 12 states so far. Okay, it was launched by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj on the Panchayati Raj Day, that is 24th of April 2020, facilitating monetization of property. These are the benefits of the scheme. Okay, you can write it down. Facilitates monetization of the property. If the property is monetized, you have the document, it will become easy for you to get the loans from bank. So owners will get easier bank. It will also reduce therefore the property dispute ki exactly kiska ghar hai, aapka ghar hai ki mera ghar hai. We know that because in the property card it is your room, so I'm homeless in that case, right? Then aiding in village level planning. It will also help women establish their ownership, because it is very easy for the big landowners to come and impinge upon their right कि आपका घर नहीं है, उनको घर से निकाल दिया गया, even if they are the rightful owners. Now when they'll be having card, even the gender equity will be there, right? And also identifying open spaces for facilitating the community development कि कौन से areas में किसी का भी स्वामित्व नहीं है, ownership नहीं है, which means they can now create could be used for community development like parks. Okay, so SVAMITVA scheme की launch date क्या है? April 24th, Panchayati Raj Day, because launched by the same ministry, and it is also supported by a lot of technology, which makes this rural development scheme extremely unique. You're going to use here the CORS network. CORS network is where a lot of satellites and drones will be deployed to map an area, and ऐसे auxiliary stations बनाए जाएंगे, and then through network server all of these will be captured, and then a digital space plot will be created, and it will be assigned a name of the owner. Okay, so what we are trying to do, we are trying to create the digital maps. Okay, SVAMITVA stands for Survey of Villages Abadi and Mapping with Improvised Technology in Village Area. It was launched, I believe, in some district of Madhya Pradesh only, and it is a central sector scheme. It is not a centrally sponsored scheme. No onus to bear the cost on the state government. Okay, it is again a collaborative one because it also involves the participation of the oldest functional organization of India, the Survey of India, alongside Ministry of Panchayati Raj and of course the respective state departments and state government. Okay, here we will be creating mapping of the land parcel and providing record of right, which our Prime Minister recently has done. So we are good to go with the scheme also. And now a very important news. Now this news as such, I'm not taking it up in the in-depth analysis. We are only studying it from prelims point of view. A very important place in news right now. At least 38 dead as Russian-bound aircraft crashes in the Kazakhstan. So what happened? That the aircraft was flying from Azerbaijan capital Baku. Why do you remember Baku this year? Because something really important has happened in Baku. What is it? Can you tell me in the comment section? Anyway, so this plane was moving from Baku towards Russian city Grozny. So you have to remember Baku, you have to remember Grozny, and Grozny was located in North Caucasus. This is also a very important range of mountain. So first of all, let's locate where exactly is Kazakhstan. So this is Caspian Sea, and taking the eastern border of Caspian Sea, we will start drawing Kazakhstan, which means it shares boundary with Caspian, which means it is not a landlocked country. Kazakhstan has got capital in Astana. What is the new name of its capital? Can you also recall and tell? Try to answer it. Now, Kazakhstan has got steppes, which is known as the Kyrgyz steppe. There is a Saryarka upland, there is a desert also. You can take the name, it's very difficult to pronounce. Most important are the lakes. The lake Balkash is here, Lake Irtish is here, Sir Darya originates from here, Aral Sea is here. UPSC has asked question, it is drying up. Why? Because of the dams created on Amur Darya and Sir Darya river, right? And of course the Tian Shan mountains are also here. So it is very, very rich in that sense. Because of its topography, it also contains a lot of critically important minerals of the world, for example titanium, copper, etc. Okay, and here is where you will also found the Ural mountains which are dividing the Russia and Europe. So you will find Ural mountains passing here. Okay, here is the Russian boundary, fine, and this is Mongolia, this is China, this is Kyrgyzstan, this is Uzbekistan, and you therefore should also be knowing that it does not share its border with Tajikistan. Okay, so now let's talk about the Caucasus Mountains. So when you will see towards the West Sea, we were talking about the east of Caspian Sea. Now when you will move towards the west of Caspian Sea, you will find this very small neck of land. Okay, and this is actually created by the two range of mountains, which is the Greater Caucasus and the Lesser Caucasus. The greater one is broadly flowing through Russia, creating partition between Russia and Georgia, Azerbaijan, and you know that there is a Nagorno-Karabakh conflict which is between two countries. Can you name that country? One is of course Azerbaijan, which is the second one, which is again a landlocked country. Okay, and then the second question, is Azerbaijan a landlocked country? No, you can see it sharing border with Caspian Sea. Then there is Lesser Caucasus, which shares border between your Georgia and Turkey and Armenia. Okay, so this is what we had to read from the geography point of view with respect to Kazakhstan and Caucasus. I hope you will not get it incorrect in your paper if it gets asked. Now the last one is about a very important biodiversity, a very cute one. This is the red pandas being gifted from Rotterdam to Darjeeling. So red panda specifically is very important for India because according to IUCN Red List, they are endangered in nature and can only be found in these small pockets of India. Right? Next question would be, is it endemic to India? So no, it is not endemic, but it is found in some of the pockets of India, specifically located in northeastern parts. It is also the state animal of Sikkim, very important topic. And in Darjeeling, in Kalimpong also, because it is nearby adjacent to Sikkim, they can also be sighted over there. Okay. Now there are two subspecies of this animal, which can be found in this biodiversity hotspot of Indo-Myanmar. So this is Himalayan red panda and Chinese red panda. Both of them are divided by the Yalung-Zangbo river, which is a geographical barrier between their distribution. So in India particularly, you will only find the Himalayan red panda and not the Chinese one. Okay, but this is what is present in the entire hotspot. And do you also know that the person who discovered them for the first time also called that it was the most beautiful animal he had ever seen? This one is not important, but this will help you to retain that because it was so beautiful, it got poached and therefore it has become endangered. It is red in color, it is a panda species only, and it is arboreal in nature. So nature of the species is also important from examination point of view. So just like the red panda, I am also going to take a break after this analyst. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you really did, then try to solve this question and let me know how much are you scoring out of enjoyment. So with this, we have reached the end of our show. So until we meet again, keep watching Vajiram and Ravi. Thank you and have a nice day.